Planning a trip to the Grand Canyon can be overwhelming because it's so huge.
Most people will spend hours researching and still miss some of the best things to do. We're Matt and Cheryl, and we have visited the Grand Canyon several times. We've helped 18,000 people have amazing trips to the West, and today we're going to give you our best tips.
We're going to cover the 5 main traveler questions: what to do, when to visit, where to stay, where to eat, and how long to visit. All right, first let's get into the map overview of the Grand Canyon so you kind of know what we're talking about, because the thing you really need to know about the Grand Canyon is that it is truly massive.
Crying, acceptable at funerals and the Grand Canyon.
Overall, it is 277 miles long from Las Vegas to the city of Page, Arizona. And I think it's over 1,000 miles to drive around the entire thing.
Which we've done a couple times.
Which we've done. I mean, this is like for the people who love the road trip, if you want to do the whole Grand Canyon.
Okay, so there are 4 main sections to the Grand Canyon to know about. So Grand Canyon National Park includes the South Rim and the North Rim. These 2 sections are actually only 10 miles apart from each other across the canyon. You can actually see one from the other. But in order to drive from one to the other, you have to go clear around the Grand Canyon, and that takes about 4 hours. Maybe gives you a sense of just how massive the Grand Canyon is. Over on the east side of the Grand Canyon is a place called Page, Arizona, a town called Page, Arizona. It's really like a collection of land. So some of it is Navajo tribal land. Some of it is part of the Glen Canyon Recreation Area. That includes Lake Powell. There's like a collection of things over there that is really interesting. They're just not all part of the national park. So a lot of people kind of overlook it for that reason.
The next area is Grand Canyon West. Grand Canyon West is actually a tribally owned land, and this is where the famous Sky Bridge is, where you can go out over the Grand Canyon. That area is where the Hoover Dam is, and a lot of Route 66 stops. Because knowing which area of the Grand Canyon to visit we think is a real traveler question, we've actually created a PDF printable that gives you the rundown of what there is to do in each of these areas to kind of help you decide. And the link is in the description. You sign up for that, you'll get that free PDF printable exactly about all the different areas of the Grand Canyon. They'll teach you all about it and help you choose.
Now the rest of this video is each region of the Grand Canyon one after another so that you kind of get all the information together in one there. So let's begin by talking about the South Rim, the most visited, the most famous, the most iconic views. There's a reason why it's the national park. It's at the widest section of the Grand Canyon.
I think when you hear most people say I'm going to the Grand Canyon, they're probably actually just going to the South Rim. That's like the destination. But the surprising thing is that there is actually a lot to do at the South Rim besides just pull over, look over the edge, and then drive somewhere else.
Come on, kids, get your butts in the car. Go.
Don't you want to look at the Grand Canyon?
We've actually spent a lot of time in the South Rim. When we visit for 2 or 3 days often because there's so much to do.
Now, one of the main things to do at the South Rim is look into the canyon. There are several viewpoints all along the canyon rim. It's about 40 miles, I believe, that you can drive to different viewpoints or even walk to different viewpoints. The Rim Trail is a paved path that goes along the rim of the canyon for about 13 miles. You can hop on that trail, walk short sections, use the shuttles to get to other sections or back to the parking lot.
The next thing is actually just the Grand Canyon Village. Okay, the Grand Canyon was established as a national park in the early 1900s, so this has been around for over 100 years. And there were concessionaires there before the park was built. So there's like all these old gift shops, and then they've the Hopi House that looks like what their homes would have been felt like. The Cole Brothers Studios, the first photographers that were filming it. The Grand Canyon Village is full of history, cool buildings, and it's just a fun place to go around and check things out. And there's plenty of places to shop and eat, and I like the Grand Canyon Village.
Yeah, it's a little hub of activity. It's very fun just to kind of walk around, hang out, go into the buildings, check them out. All the different architecture is they're all different styles. I think that makes it pretty cool, and the most charming village in any national park in the United States that we've seen. So, and then also biking at the Grand Canyon. We've noticed biking has really taken off in popularity a lot in recent years with e-bikes. Last time we went there, we rented e-bikes from Bright Angel Bicycles. And I think, how many miles did we ride?
I think it was like 28 or 32, somewhere like that.
Yeah, around 30 miles, all the way down to the end of Hermit Road. One thing that's nice about that is Hermit Road is vehicle free. So there's only shuttles allowed on that road during the busy season. So riding a bike on that road is just a dream, perfect.
When you're in a vehicle and you're driving along the rim, your views are a little obstructed by like the roof of your car and some of those things. But when you're out in the open air on a bicycle, you can see so well. And e-bikes just make it so accessible for people. Like even if you're not like into wearing spandex and really biking, you can do that. And
our hot tip is do rent an e-bike. You can rent regular bikes, but surprisingly there's some hills there on Hermit Road, so I would say rent an e-bike.
Yeah, but like there's a nice app that goes along with it that will kind of give you directions on where to go, and so it's nice. It's really easy to navigate. Okay. Oh, the next one is to ride a mule. And this is a myth I want to bust right now. I think most of us, when we think about riding a mule at the Grand Canyon, we think about the terror of like going clear down into the canyon. But most people that ride a mule at the Grand Canyon actually do like 1 to 2 hour mule rides. The last time we were there, I did the Vista Trail ride. They picked me up at Bright Angel Lodge and shuttled me over there. But where they shuttle you to, there's not very many people, and your group only has like 13 or 15 other riders. And you walk right along the edge, and it's just such an incredible experience because it's quiet and you can hear your mules, their little feet clopping along, and they're just such magnificent animals. They spend years training them before they even let some of the city slickers get on them. So it's really safe.
Yeah, this is a cool historic experience at the Grand Canyon. And another historic experience at the Grand Canyon that we did is the Grand Canyon train, the railway. So the Grand Canyon Railway goes from Williams, Arizona, which is about 60 miles away from the South Rim, and it takes you to the South Rim. This is the way that the original tourists got there in the early 1900s. They actually brought it back in the 1980s. And you can have that nostalgic experience today. And this is a high-end train ride.
It's
classy. It's classy, and it's an all-day train ride. They give you some entertainment in the morning, and then you hop on the train, and it's about 2.5 hours to the canyon rim. They drop you off. You have a few hours to check out the canyon while you're there, and they drop you off right in the village. Then we spent time just walking around the village, checking it out, going into the canyon rim, hiking down into the canyon a little bit, and then we got back on the train and came back. That was a really classy experience, and one that we're going to just devote a whole video on, so you can check that out.
And a whole blog post on. So we've talked about the Grand Canyon Railway. And you know, Matt, there's one thing not on our list. Hiking. We loved hiking off the South Rim.
You know what? Hiking is hard in the Grand Canyon because it's very steep. You go down about 1,500 feet, something like that, and then you got to come out and you got to hoof it out. And that's only for like a 3-mile hike. It's a very steep hike in the canyon. And you know, I was looking at our video the other day of our 2 hikes into the Grand Canyon, and even though it was hard, those were really special hikes because it's just really neat to get down below the canyon rim because you're going to spend so much time at the South Rim up above just looking down. If you can find a way to hike down in there a little bit and get below the rim, it is so worth it. And my favorite hike is the South Kaibab Trail, and you get up to Cedar Point, which is about 1.5 miles one way, so 3 miles round trip. Again, a lot of hoofing it out of that canyon, so you better be in shape, but that was a really special hike for me. I thought that was great.
Grand Canyon is a place of non-happy hikers. Normally when you're hiking along the trail, people are smiling and waving, but like the people that are hiking out of the canyon, I feel like they're about ready to flip you the bird. They've like had enough of that climbing out.
But it is rewarding. It's kind of a personal, accomplishment if you do it. And it's just the views are different, and it's really a special way to see the Grand Canyon, I believe. So now we'll talk about other ways to get down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon later on, but let's move on to where to eat at the South Rim.
Okay, so this is really important for you to understand about eating at the Grand Canyon. 3 things. Number 1, you're not going to starve. There's lots of places to eat. Number 2, the food isn't great. Yep. It's okay. It's not great. Yep. And number 3 is it's actually kind of rare to get views of the Grand Canyon while you're eating. There's very few places within the park that have views of the canyon. So those are the 3 takeaways to know with food in the Grand Canyon. We're going to talk about a couple places we like to eat. The
only one that I'm aware of that you can get some views of the canyon is El Tovar. This is the famous historic hotel at the Grand Canyon. In the hotel, they have a restaurant, it has a fine dining. We don't typically like to pay for the fine dining dinners, so that's not really worth it to us usually. So we did breakfast there. We got there really early, like 7 a.m., and had their French toast with their prickly pear syrup. And it kind of gave us a nice fine dining experience without the fine dining cost.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a nice restaurant. I felt like their dishes were really pretty and it was very memorable for our children. Now, the next one we kind of checked out the last time we were there was the Maswick Pizza Pub. And why we're bringing this one up is because a lot of times in the national parks, they're pretty unplugged. Unplugged is good. It's good to connect with nature, but sometimes you're kind of like, I want some fun. And so the Maswick Pizza Pub has sports and not live music, but
Sports
it's
bar.
a sports bar. So there's music, there's sports, and it's regular pizza, not great pizza, but okay pizza.
Probably go back there again. Again, you're not going there for the food. You're going there for the environment.
All right. So next up we have where to stay. So 3 places to stay. There's actually 6 hotels/lodges right on the rim that you can stay at the South Rim.
So inside the park is one.
Yep, inside the park. Then you've got Tusayan, which is about a 10-minute drive outside of the South Rim. And then
Little town.
Little
Tusayan
town.
is a town.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it has a lot of chain hotels.
Yes. And then the last is Williams, which is an hour away, which is an even bigger town, but you're, trading for a long drive.
Williams has the nicest places actually, but they are far and they're cheap. Williams is really cheap, but you are driving quite a ways. Tusayan doesn't have much character at all, but it does have a lot of chain restaurants or chain hotels that you can stay at to visit the Grand Canyon, and it's pretty close, and it's also serviced by the Purple Shuttle. You can take the Purple Shuttle to the park.
Yes, one other thing about Tusayan that I appreciated is we have a family of 6. There is no national park lodging at the South Rim that accommodates 6 people. I think there's 1 cabin at the Bright Angel, but Tusayan has like this, these bigger suites where families can stay, and they have hotels with pools, which is great if you have kids with you.
And I think Tusayan and the Grand Canyon South Rim are about the same cost.
Yes.
I want to cover 2 hotels that we want to share with you here. Okay, so the first one is one that we stayed in last time inside the park called the Bright Angel Lodge. This is named after the canyon that cuts through the Grand Canyon called Bright Angel Canyon. And this lodge was designed originally by the Santa Fe Railroad to be kind of an economical option. So El Tovar was the fancy option. Bright Angel is the more economical option. Still today, that's what it is. And so you typically will stay in a little cabin outside of the lodge. And talk about economical. The rooms were so small and the walls were so thin.
So not all of it, like it's not just cabins. We were in like a little.
It was kind of like cabins within a cabin.
Yeah. So
Or
there,
rooms
we
within a
had
cabin.
people next to us in rooms.
Yeah. Yeah. And so our heads were right next to the door. It was really kind of funny. I mean, the door opened right there. Everybody's looking at me out in the hallway. It's kind of funny.
We could hear the ice machine all night.
The ice machine is right next to us. We could hear that.
Not every room here has its own bathroom, but we are in luck.
Oh, nice.
We have our very own, although small.
So that was kind of a funny, again, economical. But here's the trade-off. I got up at 5:30 in the morning because of the time difference. I just happened to wake up at that time, which is about when the sun rises there. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll just walk to the rim. Literally, it's just a couple of steps out the cabin to go to the rim to see the Grand Canyon and to watch that sunrise. So that's the advantage of staying in the park, is that you're just right there in the action, right by the canyon rim, and that was really special. Now, the other place that we want to share with you, so I mentioned that Williams has a lot of cheap hotels, but also interesting hotels. And we'll just share one of them with you here, which is the Red Garter Inn. This is a former brothel that they have turned into a hotel. And we didn't stay there, but we contacted the owner. We said, hey, we want to do a tour of your hotel and take some video and show people about it because it has really high reviews online. People love it. And when we were there, we talked to a couple from Europe who was staying there. For some reason, people from Europe, they always want to come over and stay in our haunted hotels.
Or like
and
Route
brothels.
66. They love Route 66.
Yeah, and Williams is a Route 66
Yeah.
town, by the way. So there's a bunch of diners and Route 66 places in Williams. The last town bypassed on Route 66, last town bypassed by the freeway. That's their claim to fame.
At the hotel, they only have 4 or 5 rooms, but they're each, their boutique rooms are each different. And they have a certificate of hauntedness.
Oh yeah, they're haunted too.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to stay in a brothel, stay at the Red Garter Inn in Williams. And even though it's a long drive to the canyon, we actually don't mind staying in Williams.
Oh, yeah?
It is a cute little
There's a
town.
little bit of nightlife going on in Williams. You can walk up and down Main
right.
Street and they have fun things going on.
It's so affordable, so we like that. Last thought on the South Rim here is when to visit and for how long. So the South Rim is open year-round. It does get snow in the winter. It can get pretty hot in the summer, but not really too miserable typically, I don't think. We were there once when it was in the 90s, and that was kind of a heat wave. Last time we went in April, and that was perfect.
Yes, we were there the 3rd week in April. It was perfect. We loved it.
Spring and fall are really good times, but really, honestly, even the summer is probably nice.
And I would also avoid like Easter weekend and Memorial Day if you're visiting in April or May, because my parents were there over Easter break last year and they said that they waited like 30 or 40 minutes to get on the shuttles, and it was and no parking whatsoever. And so those are a couple times a year that are especially crowded. I would avoid those times.
Visit for about 1 to 2 days. South Rim, it really only takes about 1 to 2 days to see the South Rim properly.
Before we move on to the North Rim, let's talk for a second about the Grand Canyon Village. We brought this up, but we didn't explain why it's even a thing. What's the story with the Grand Canyon Village? Well, tourists originally reached the park by way of the Santa Fe Railroad. The railroad dropped visitors off at this log depot, which is just a short walk away from the canyon rim. The railroad built several hotels and gift shops at the canyon rim to serve the tourists, including El Tovar Hotel, the Hopi House, Lookout Studio, and Desert View Watchtower. The railroad started servicing the canyon to compete with the northern railroads that serviced Yellowstone and Glacier National Parks. Most visitors were riding the train from the east, which was a multi-day trek. Train travel was notorious for providing bad food. The Santa Fe started looking for ways to provide better food to entice more tourists to their rail line instead of the Yellowstone and Glacier rail lines. Enter a restaurateur named Fred Harvey. He worked with the Santa Fe Railroad to establish restaurants at each stop along the cross-country route. Together, they provided tourists with fresh, consistent food. The restaurants were called Harvey Houses, and they were the first chain restaurant in America. Each Harvey House had waitresses who wore white aprons. These waitresses were called Harvey Girls. They were such an important part of any traveler's experience riding the Santa Fe Railroad to the Grand Canyon that a movie was made called The Harvey Girls starring Judy Garland. Today, you'll see several references to the Santa Fe Railroad and Fred Harvey at the Grand Canyon. You can stay in a Santa Fe car in Williams and eat at one of several restaurants with the name Harvey in it, including the Harvey House Cafe in the Grand Canyon Village. The Fred Harvey Company was eventually bought out by Xanterra, which now runs the concessions in several national parks. And now you know the rest of the story of the Grand Canyon Village. All right, Cheryl's gonna be a Harvey girl. But remember, Harvey girls can't get married.
We actually have an audio guide for you to listen to while you visit the South Rim, and I tell the story of Fred Harvey, the first chain restaurant owner in America.
Yep, he tells he's passionate about this. Matt loves the history of the Grand Canyon,
Yeah.
and it's a good history.
Yeah. Up next is the North Rim. Let's talk about the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. Again, this is part of the national park. It's not like two separate parks. This is all one park, Grand Canyon National Park. So the thing to know about the North Rim, it's very peaceful. It gets way fewer visitors than the South Rim does. Like only about 10% of the visitors at the South Rim. By the way, Grand Canyon, one of the most visited national parks in the entire country. It gets around 5 million visitors a year, but a small fraction of those go to the North Rim.
Yeah, like 500,000 go to the North Rim. And just while we're talking about visiting, so South Rim, open year round, but North Rim is not. They are really only open mid-May through mid-October because it's much higher altitude, much cooler, and they get a lot of snow. And so that's a real common mistake. We hear people, they email us and they'll ask us about, I'm going to go in April. And I'm like, actually, you're not. Like, it's not going to be open. Yeah. And so just keep that in mind if you're visiting. But the North Rim is a very condensed area. So when you go to the village at the South Rim, there's several parking lots, the shuttle system, all sorts of things going on. But when you go to the North Rim, one parking lot.
Yep.
One parking lot, one lodge.
And one scenic drive.
It's very, very small. But the nice thing is that you only have to park once. You're there. And then you walk over to the lodge and you go out back and you sit outside. And there is an amazing viewing area. They have the Rough Riders Lounge right there where you can have a drink or a little snack. And you just sit out there and you take in the views. And I think that it's one of my favorite views of the Grand Canyon. It's just so peaceful and so beautiful.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite lodges in the entire National Park Service because unlike the South Rim where they don't really look into the canyon very much, the Grand Canyon Lodge on the North Rim stares right into the canyon. So you can be eating dinner there while you're looking into the canyon. And that is a really cool view and a very cool lodge. However, again, the food is not all that great. So you're paying for the view, not the food probably. But anyway, that's a really cool lodge, and it's the hub of the North Rim.
All right, so there's also mule rides at the North Rim. I've done that too. That was actually my very first mule ride ever, and my dad and my daughter came with me. And the Canyon Trail rides, they do rides at the Grand Canyon and Bryce and Zion. They do a great job, and we just did a 1-hour ride. It was not scary at all. It was such a good intro ride. They have a couple other ones, but yeah, you can ride a mule at the North Rim too. And unlike the South Rim, those ones you can get a little closer to when you're visiting. It seems like the South Rim, you have to reserve those quite a bit in advance.
Yep. My favorite viewpoint at the North Rim is called Angel's Window. This is an amazing fin that kind of sticks out from the rim there, and you can walk out on this narrow ledge, and there's actually like a hole underneath it, so like from a distance it looks like a window, and this is a remarkable view. The views at the North Rim aren't quite as sheer, like the viewpoints don't have quite the sheer drops that the South Rim has, but they are more colorful. So there's a lot more red rock and greenery on the North Rim. It's higher up, it gets more water over there. In fact, that's the only source of water at the Grand Canyon National Park. They get all their water on the North Rim, pipe it down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and up the entire Grand Canyon to the South Rim. That's how they get their water, it's from a spring on the North Rim. So there's more water over there, it's more colorful, not quite as sheer viewpoints, but Angel's Window is a sheer viewpoint and is the best one, I think, on the North Rim. Let's just talk about where to eat and where to stay. I'm going to group these together because it is just so remote out there on the North Rim that there are really only 3 hotels and restaurants in that whole area. So there's the Grand Canyon Lodge, which is inside the national park. Just outside the national park is a place called Kaibab Lodge. About an hour away is Jacob Lake Inn. So it's kind of like the South Rim where you have the park, you know, something nearby, and then about an hour away you have something there. The Grand Canyon Lodge, again, is just a beautiful spot and would be a pretty cool place to stay. The food the reviews are not good. The Kaibab Lodge, it gets kind of middling reviews as well. And then the Jacob Lake Inn, it gets a little bit higher reviews. So this is kind of an icon on the North Rim, actually, the Jacob Lake Inn. And it's where you can go to get some yummy cookies and shakes. That's kind of the thing to do at the Jacob Lake Inn.
But I think another good message about the lodging is that it's all very basic. Like at the Grand Canyon Lodge, there's no rooms within the lodge. There are cabins along the side by the lodge.
These are all rustic.
Yes, these are rustic.
These are very rustic.
Rustic/old, however you view it. And we think that just one day is enough to visit the North Rim. That is plenty of time. You only need one day.
Unlike the South Rim, there was never a railroad that serviced the North Rim. So, how did it become part of the national park? 2 answers: Zion and Bryce Canyon National Parks. National parks had been around since the 1870s, but the National Park Service wasn't created until 1916. Once it was created, it immediately began looking for new national parks to entice visitors. The Park Service found this amazing trifecta: Zion, Bryce Canyon, and the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. There wasn't a railroad to connect these parks, but by this point, the automobile was well established. Though most people didn't have their own automobile, the Park Service contracted with a tour bus company to carry visitors from park to park. The Park Service constructed lodges within each park, and as the visitors hopped on the tour bus for their next destination, employees would sing them songs as they drove away. Today, most people visit without a tour, but these 3 parks are still a popular and amazing combination of canyons with wonderful variety. Many people use the small town of Kanab, Utah as a home base to visit these parks. We include this option in our Grand Canyon itinerary that we'll discuss later in this video.
Okay, up next, let's talk about the Grand Canyon East section. So we refer to this as Grand Canyon East or Page, Arizona. This is really one region. It doesn't have an official name. Again, it's kind of a collection of national park sites, tribal land. So Page, Arizona is the hub, though. This is a town that was created because of the Glen Canyon Dam. When they were building the Glen Canyon Dam there, they set up a city for workers to stay, and the city is now a recreation hub for Lake Powell and for the other places in that area. This is right on the border of Utah and Arizona, by the way. In fact, your phones might get a little messed up on the time zone. You got to kind of be aware of that. Is one thing to know. But let's talk about some of the things to do in this Page Grand Canyon East area.
Okay, so the first one is probably the most famous thing, and that's Antelope Canyon. Antelope Canyon is a little tricky to understand it because it's not one canyon. It's about 6 canyons, and they are all on tribal land. You must book a tour through one of the tribes to go visit. Even each canyon might have several tour operators accessing that canyon. We've been able to visit 3 of the 6 canyons. These are beautiful places and they are unique, and the photos do them justice. They really are that beautiful. My little Reader's Digest version of this is this is a great thing for people who love photography. It's a great thing if you want to learn more about some of the tribes because the tribal members lead you.
Also, if you want to see some really beautiful scenery in a short amount of time, because these are right in page, so you're paying some money, but the nice thing is it only takes you about an hour or 2 to go see some really beautiful scenery here.
I don't think it's a good thing for hikers. If you love like hiking in slot canyons, you'll be disappointed because they're short. They're only like a football field length. And one thing I did not mention, which is pretty darn important, is these are pricey.
They're $60 to $90 per person, something like that. So
yes, so yeah. you know, if you're traveling with a family like we do, we can really rack up the expenses going there. But if it's just a couple, it might not be too bad.
I think we're in the minority and that we're not in love with Antelope Canyon due to the cost and some of the crowded experience there. I do think most people just absolutely love Antelope Canyon. And so we always put it as a must-do in page.
Well, it's one of our most viewed YouTube videos is our Should You Go to Antelope Canyon? And reading through the comments might give you a good idea if it's a good idea for you, because people get on and weigh in on their experiences. And it's interesting to see what people think.
Okay, let's move on here to the next one, which is Horseshoe Bend. This is a viewpoint in Page, or just outside of Page. This is a viewpoint of the Colorado River carving through. This is actually Glen Canyon that it carves through. Now, this picture is used for the Grand Canyon. Technically, it's Glen Canyon, but I mean, it's all the same canyon system, so it's fine. But it is one of the most famous and iconic views of the Grand Canyon, and it is very pretty. But this is just kind of a short thing. It does require a little hike out to the rim, a pretty easy hike out there and back. But actually, my favorite thing is to be at the bottom of Horseshoe Bend. I love that the most. So last time we went on a Horseshoe Bend rafting trip. And so you go down to this place called Lee's Ferry, which is at the bottom of the Grand Canyon at the Colorado River. You hop on a motorized raft and they will drive you through Glen Canyon around the Horseshoe Bend and show you some petroglyphs. And that was, I just love it. And maybe it's just me, I love being at the bottom of a canyon, and I particularly love being on the water there in this really dry desert area where you don't get water that much. It was really nice and cool. This is seriously one of the prettiest and best days of my life.
Okay, our next one is Lake Powell and Rainbow Bridge. So Lake Powell is a huge man-made lake. I spent a lot of my childhood going here every summer and boating around. Like, my family was a boat family. We loved it. But one thing that I had not done was we took a boat cruise out to Rainbow Bridge. And this is an all-day activity. And Rainbow Bridge, just to give you context, you know, it's a big natural arch or bridge, whatever you want to call it, but it's way bigger than Delicate Arch, the big like showstopper in Arches National Park. It is huge, but you have to go on a boat ride out there almost all day. But the nice thing about it is it's air conditioned, because Page can get super hot, like 100 degrees, desert, no water except for Lake Powell. It is so hot out there. And so it's nice to get in that air conditioned boat. Get out there. You have to hike a little bit to the bridge, and depending on the water levels of Lake Powell fluctuate from year to year by feet, like 30 feet. Like, it's crazy. It can affect how far you have to hike, but that natural bridge is just beautiful. And one thing that I really enjoyed about that ride was going by the houseboats. There are these great big houseboats on Lake Powell, and Captain Doug, we love Captain Doug, told us all about how much all these houseboats cost and stories about him. And it was just a really great trip. Page is full of a lot of fun things to do.
Really cool area. Oh, I mean, the big mistake in Page is that people overlook it. And again, it's not part of the national park, so it's a little harder to know what to do and to research it and stuff, which is why we've tried to make it very simple by creating an itinerary for you for Page, because it is really a wonderful area and the easiest area to get down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon at a really cool place called Navajo Bridge and Lee's Ferry. Navajo Bridge, this bridge that goes over Marble Canyon, featured in the movie Maverick, by the way. I just learned the other day.
Not the Top Gun one, the Mel Gibson one.
Yeah, love that movie.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
And anyway, you're there and you're going to see California condor birds that fly around. They hang out on the bridge. just one of my favorite areas in all the Grand Canyon because it is really hard to get down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And this is the easiest way and just a great place.
And it's a 2-hour drive from the North Rim or the South Rim, so that's doable. This is something great about Page. There are lots of good places to eat. In fact, we have a whole list right here. We're going to tell you about a couple of them, so we're not rambling on forever. But let's see, what do I want to talk about?
The birdhouse. You love the birdhouse. Our kids love the birdhouse. The birdhouse is awesome. It has this huge bird in front.
A huge chicken.
Yeah, huge chicken. And they serve chicken strips, baby. That's what they do.
Like they'll bring out a big sheet pan of chicken and fries, and they have a ton of dipping sauce. It's real informal, real fun.
Mm-hmm. Next one is El Tapatio Mexican restaurant in Page. We had that bowl. That I don't even know what they call that bowl, but it was awesome.
I don't know if you have a video of it.
Awesome. Of course, I have the video that I'll be showing here. But we loved the bowl of Mexican food there. That was a great spot.
And it was just really colorful in there. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Next up is the Texas Barbecue restaurant, Big John's Barbecue. And this is cool. You cannot miss this one because it's right on Main Street. So as you're driving through the town,
so good.
They've got the smoker out there. And yeah, you're going to smell it. You're going to see it. And you're going to want to stop there. And it was really delicious. And they have live music there. Mm-hmm. That was a really great place to hang out. We made some friends there.
Yeah.
Ended up meeting people. Yeah, that was good.
The last one is there is a floating restaurant on Lake Powell. And they, right now the water is really low. So they'll take you on a golf cart down there to the bottom. But this is the world's largest floating restaurant. I have to say, I didn't feel like I was floating when we were there.
No, I didn't either. But the golf cart ride down to there was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Because the lake levels are so low now that they had to actually carve a new path through the rock to get down to the restaurant. And then they take you down there on a golf cart. And that was good.
Yeah, we like the corn chowder and tater tots. That's what we eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty. And then you're around all the boats there. That's kind of fun too.
Okay, next up, where to stay. Page has a ton of chain hotels, lots of great places to stay, and a lot of B&Bs. We wanted to share with you where we stayed on our last trip because I think it's our favorite place we've ever stayed of anywhere we've traveled. And we travel 70 days a year. So we stayed at the Dreamcatchers B&B in Big Water, Utah. It's about a 10-minute drive outside of town. This is a beautiful location. He has 3 rooms, but he is the world's best host. Mm-hmm. He has paid attention to every detail in the home, like just beautiful lighting, the outdoor seating. They have a hot tub on the roof of the garage for stargazing. And our very favorite thing was when we'd wake up in the morning, Eric had a smoothie bowl waiting for us. And that's just so refreshing when you're visiting in the desert. And then, of course, it would follow with the main course, and he'd alternate sweeter, savory dishes. He was an amazing cook. But what was even nicer was what pleasant company he was. He'd come dine with us. He would just tell us about things in the area, stories. And I mean, when you look at his reviews online, they're impeccable. And
it's so nice. I want to just hang out here. We just woke up and Eric has another yummy smoothie bowl for us. And when we wake up, there's like ambience music. It's so nice.
Best host ever.
And we're not paid for say this. We are just telling you about our great experience that we had.
Yep, we paid our own way. That's what we do, so we can give you the honest reviews. And we love Eric and would love to support him. So, yep, check out Dreamcatchers. We want to go there we love the area, and we want to go stay with Eric again and go play around the area. It's amazing. So, how long to visit Page? So again, this mistake a lot of people make is just kind of almost driving through the area. This is actually worth 2 to 3 days. So even more than the South Rim, in my opinion, just because of all the amazing things there is to do around there. And Rainbow Bridge, if you do that tour to Rainbow Bridge National Monument, that takes basically a full day. And then you can spend another 2 days doing hikes, rafting, Antelope Canyon, and the other things in that region. Really cool area.
We mentioned our rafting tour on the Colorado River, but that does not do this incredible river justice. The Colorado River is the most important river in the American West. It begins in Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado and flows through Canyonlands National Park and the Grand Canyon, providing water to over 40 million people in the western states. The first full exploration of the river was by a one-armed Civil War veteran named John Wesley Powell. Powell took 10 men and 4 wooden boats for the harrowing 3-month journey. Just a few days in, they lost their supply boat, forcing them to ration their supplies for the rest of the trip. They floated the Green River through today's Canyonlands National Park before meeting up with the Colorado River. This sign is located in Canyonlands, and this is the Green River they floated on. They continued down the Colorado River through a canyon that they named Glen Canyon, before plunging into and through the dangerous Grand Canyon. They barely made it through the canyon before their supplies ran out. This is Powell Point at the south rim of the Grand Canyon, which has a monument to this grand achievement. Today, there is a Grand Canyon Visitor Center in Tucson that has a replica of the wooden boats they use. In 1960, Disney filmed a movie on the Colorado River in Moab, Utah, called 10 Who Dare, telling the story of Powell's journey. It's known as one of the worst Disney movies ever made, but you can see one of the boats that they used in the movie at the Powell Museum in Page, Arizona, which is a lovely stop to learn more about Powell's trip and the area. In 1960, Glen Canyon Dam was built, and the lake that it formed was named Lake Powell in honor of the first man to explore the entire Grand Canyon.
Up next is the Grand Canyon West region. Wow, this is a really interesting region, and it is a difficult region, I think, to find out a lot about because it is also not part of the national park. So Grand Canyon West region includes the Grand Canyon West location, which is run by the Hualapai Native American tribe, as well as we use it to include kind of the whole region of things in that area, like Lake Mead and Hoover Dam. So let's talk about some of the things that you can do in the Grand Canyon West area.
All right, so the first one is actually Grand Canyon West. That's the name of it. It's a tribal-run park by the Hualapai. How this park works is that you pay an entrance fee, and your entrance fee includes a shuttle bus that will take you around the park. Private vehicles are not allowed. And the shuttle bus will take you to a couple of different stops, including Eagle Point and Guano Point. You go out to Eagle Point, and that is where the famous Sky Bridge is. And the Sky Bridge is like a big deal. It costs a little extra, like $25 extra to go out on the Sky Bridge, and it can get a very long line. The security guard told us that on big weekends, you can expect to wait in line 3 hours. They say the average is 1 hour. When we were there, our magic time, third week in April, we just walked right on.
Yeah.
But
we got lucky.
We were very fortunate, but it's a very beautiful view. But I think Guano Point is my very favorite. Yeah. They also have a couple of restaurants along there. They have a lot of displays that teach about the Hualapai, which I thought was great. I felt like the Grand Canyon West was very smoothly run. Like the operations were great there. It was a cool place. It was $150 by the time we left. Like that was for our shuttle, our Sky Bridge, and our picture because you can't take your own photos on there. And so
$25 for the photo.
Yeah, $25 for the photo. I thought it was nice, and I thought, I would recommend this to someone that
it's a day trip.
Yeah, it's a day trip from Vegas, and so like if that's your only opportunity to see the Grand Canyon, that's a great one. You shouldn't miss it.
Right.
But if you're wanting to see the Grand Canyon, I would try to make it to the north or south rim because that's where the really good views are.
Yeah, we think it's kind of duplicate to go pay the money to go there in addition to the national park. Probably don't need to do that. Next up, Hoover Dam. So the Hoover Dam forms Lake Mead. It kind of unofficially, I think, marks the end of the Grand Canyon. It is also located on the road that you drive to get from Las Vegas to the South Rim. You're going to drive right by the Hoover Dam. So it's a very, very common stop to stop there on the way. It only costs like $10 in parking, and then you can walk out over the dam, and there's a couple of, viewpoints that you can check out. Of course, you need to get your dam-related merchandise. All this stuff
will enjoy getting to say dam a lot there. They
do have tours of the Hoover Dam as well. We have not been able to do it just because of like the timing of when we visit. Some of the tickets will sell out early in the morning. Other ones you can reserve online ahead of time, but because of COVID and whatever, again, just the timing of when we visited, we haven't been able to do a tour. They have a visitor center that you can pay an additional $10 to go into. It's fine. It's probably worth it. It's not an absolute must-do, but I do think the Hoover Dam is actually really cool. It's located in Boulder Canyon. You absolutely must go walk out on the bridge that goes over the canyon there and check out the view of Hoover Dam there. There's some bighorn sheep in the area. There's Lake Mead that you can do some tours on Lake Mead as well. There's quite a bit going on in that little area, actually. But most people are just going to stop at the Hoover Dam and get on their way to the South Rim.
All right. Next up, we have to bring up Las Vegas because it's right by there. And I think even if you are not like a Las Vegas person, you should go see Las Vegas at least once in your life because it's very cool. And Matt and I are not partiers. We will never make a video about how to party in Las Vegas. But I can quick fire tell you like 5 awesome things to do. There is the Bellagio Water Show. There is the Museum of the Mob. There's the Nuclear Museum. There's the Flowers at the Wynn. And maybe I only have 4. But
You think we need one more? You think we need one more? All right, we'll get one more.
Oh, I guess no, there's the Neon Sign Museum. So those are all like non-party things to do in Las Vegas. Don't skip Las Vegas. There's lots to do there besides party.
One of the most unique places in the world. I love Las Vegas. You need to go walk the Strip and check out the casinos. We have the walking tour of the Strip that we do every time we go there. We really like it. So yeah, Las Vegas is a must do. Okay, next one is a really underrated little spot that you might not know about called Nelson Ghost Town. This was a mining town out there in the mountains that faded into obscurity, and then a guy who had this like hoarding problem bought the town, and then he's put all the stuff there on display, and he's fixed it up, and it's really a colorful little ghost town is what it is. It's a photogenic ghost town. And so some of the buildings, you know, are not authentic, but the point of the ghost town is actually to be photogenic. And so there's a lot of wedding photographers that go there to take pictures. And so if you're into photography, you'd probably really like Nelson Ghost Town. And I think it's just kind of cool to drive out there in those mountains. It's a really remote area. And it was a fun little visit.
We enjoyed it.
Donation only too, by the way.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so Nelson Ghost Town. Okay, what else?
Oh, Anniversary Narrows. This is for those of you that don't want to pay a bunch of money to go hike in Antelope Canyon and prefer the hiking experience. This is one of the things you can do. This is a little slot canyon that's in the area, very desolate, and we had the place to ourselves. It was a bit of an off-roading experience to get there, but it was great. And I think that was like my peanut butter road trip, because we were driving through these really remote, desolate areas. We had our peanut butter sandwiches. We were on the dirt road. I was loving hanging out with Matt and just driving through the American West. It was just very cool. And like, this is where you get away from the crowds, is out in this area. I mean, you go to the Hoover Dam or you go to the Grand Canyon West Tribal Park, there's people there, but as you're driving to these like off the beaten path sites, like these Anniversary Narrows or like some of these ghost towns, you are kind of just an explorer. It's really fun.
So remote in the desert. And then, yeah, pack your food around, pack water, make sure your gas tank is filled up when you leave town, because you'll be in some really remote areas. Next place to visit is a little place that my grandmother took me to. My grandmother lived in Kingman, Arizona. She took me to this place several years ago called Oatman, Arizona. So Oatman, Arizona is this really quirky town because it's a Route 66 town. It's located right on Route 66. Also a Wild West mining town. If you go there today, you're going to find donkeys in the middle of town, because these donkeys were left over, these burros were left over from the miners, and now they just live in the hills and they come down into the town during the day to beg for food. And the town is a Old West style town because it was a mining town. But then when they built Route 66, it went right through Oatman, Arizona. It's way out in the mountains. It's really an interesting drive to get there, a really windy road. So Arizona has the longest stretch of Route 66 that's intact in the country, which I find is interesting. And so we went to Oatman and we drove Route 66 backwards. We went going east, and I went to Kingman, Peach Springs, and Seligman, and all these interesting little Route 66 spots that are off the highway there, which is really cool. If you like Route 66, like team up Route 66 with your Grand Canyon trip. I really enjoyed it. I've kind of found that to be a pretty fun little thing to do, Route 66, and see all the quirky little stores.
Yeah, I just wanted to say my memory of Oatman was they have this bar that has thousands of dollars stapled to the walls and the ceilings. And then also those burros, they're kind of pushy. Like the store owners have their little spray bottles because the burros will try to go in the stores. Yeah. I remember when we were there with our little children, they were trying to get in my diaper bag and eat my snacks. So
That's right. That's right.
The burros are lovable, but kind of pushy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about where to stay and where to eat in the Grand Canyon West region. This is a spread out region. There's no one way to go visit this region. You can stay inside Grand Canyon West, the location. And actually, Grand Canyon West has a restaurant up above the Sky Bridge that probably has the best views of the Grand Canyon in all of the Grand Canyon, actually. So that's a place to eat. Really, Las Vegas is the jumping off point for all of this. It has the cheapest lodging, and it's the central place. So you're probably going to stay in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a foodie town as well. I mean, incredible food in Las Vegas that you're going to want to check out while you're there. So that's probably the thing, is just stay in Las Vegas.
Let's talk about how to do this entire trip. So in a week's time, you could definitely fly into Las Vegas, go to the South Rim for a couple of days, go to Page for a couple of days, and then head back, and you will have got to see some amazing things and do some fun activities. This is a great trip. Now, if you have more time, and we totally hope you do, you could turn this into a 2-week Grand Circle Adventure, where you're seeing like the areas of the Grand Canyon. You're going into Utah's national parks. And by the way, each of Utah's national parks is different from each other.
Very different.
Been in Monument Valley. Oh my gosh, this would be like the trip that all your neighbors would be envious of, because you'd be like, oh yes, I've been there and there and there. And you would, oh my gosh. What's tricky about doing either of these road trips is it is a ton of research, figuring out where to stay, knowing what to do along the route. Matt and I have been writing travel guides for 5 years, and we just barely wrote our travel guide for this 2-week Grand Circle thing because it's taken us traveling to that area so many times to have the knowledge to do that. And just the hours and hours we've spent piecing that together, it's very challenging knowing how to connect all these parks and knowing the best spots to do along the route.
So learn from our experience. What we have for you is 2 different itineraries to help you out with this region. So the first one is for the Grand Canyon itself. And this includes all 4 areas of the Grand Canyon and how to visit this entire Grand Canyon area in about 7 to 10 days, depending on which areas you want to visit. The second itinerary that we have for you on our website is for the entire Grand Circle, the whole shebang. This is the Utah's national parks, the Grand Canyon, and Monument Valley, how to do this entire road trip. Now, how you do this might vary a little bit depending on where you're flying into, so we have you covered on that. The main places you might fly into to do this are Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Salt Lake City, Utah. And we have it broken down for you how you would do that from each airport.
These bundles include a game plan for every national park site you visit. So the Grand Canyon bundle will include a guide for the South Rim, the North Rim, Page, Grand Canyon West. And if you do the Grand Circle, you're going to get Zion, Bryce, Arches, Canyonlands, all of these things that shows you how to piece this entire thing together, including like where to stay each night, because that is one of the hardest things to know, is where you're wanting to get your lodging so that you're not backtracking, because you are covering over 1,000 miles of land and you do not have time to be driving back and forth. You want to be spending your time experiencing the area, not just driving around. And this solves that problem. Each of our itineraries includes a day-by-day, step-by-step game plan. You are going to have maps to help you navigate the area. It's going to tell you when to arrive at the popular spots. And each activity is going to have a great description that will tell you how much it costs, how long it takes to do, and most importantly, our star ratings, whether we think it's a must-see or it's just a nice to see. So it can really help you focus in on what is the best thing for your group and offers you some flexibility to do the things that you want to do.
But that's not all. Also, I mentioned earlier, I have audio guides for all these places for you. So this is my passion, is to research the stories behind the scenery here. And there are a lot of wonderful stories behind the scenery here. Like, did you know that Monument Valley and Moab, Utah were basically little Hollywood for a long time? They had tons and tons of movies that were filmed there. John Wayne, John Ford, a lot of the classics were filmed there. So I tell the story of that. In the Grand Canyon, Teddy Roosevelt basically saved the Grand Canyon on his trip there in 1903. I tell the story about how he did that. Death in the Grand Canyon. Everybody's always interested in people, how they die in the Grand Canyon, kind of a morbid curiosity, but I talk all about the ways that people die in the Grand Canyon. The most common way that people die in the Grand Canyon will surprise you for sure. This is something that comes along with each of these guides. It's an audio guide to listen to while you drive from site to site. If you're at all concerned about the cost for buying a guide for a road trip like this, just remember that this is a very small cost for a big job that you're going to do. So this is like buying a nail gun to build your shed. It's going to save you a lot of time and it's going to give you a better product.
And we have sold 18,000 of these guides, and they come with the best friend guarantee, which means if you don't like our guides so much that you would not tell your best friend about it, we give you your money back. And I'm telling you, we have refunded less than 1%. People have really appreciated our guides. Some people worry about not being tech savvy enough to download our guides, and I want to let you know that this is not going to be a problem. We give you some good instructions with pictures when you get it. We also have our assistant, Becca, who is a genius about helping people with this. She is ready to help you within one business day, even getting on a phone call if you need it, to help you download your guides.
Now, what if you're not visiting this year? Should you still buy the guide? We give you free updates for life. So whenever we update the guide, it'll show up in your account on our website. So it's better to prepare early because you need to get your lodging ahead of time and have a good game plan ahead of time so that you're not like scrambling last minute.
You don't need to take our word for it. We have helped thousands of people travel to the West, and we have reviews on our website that you can see. On average, our customers say that we save them 10 to 20 hours of time per itinerary. And so when you get one of our Grand Canyon bundles that has several itineraries in it, this is a time saving of, it could be up to 100 hours of time if you're planning a very big road trip. And 97% of our customers said that they would buy a guide from us again and tell their friends about it.
All right, so how to get this itinerary. You can go to our website, we'reintherockies.com. You click on the link there that says guides and just add the guides that you want to your cart. Remember that we have a Grand Canyon guide for you that covers all areas of the Grand Canyon. And then we also have Grand Circle guide for you that covers the Grand Canyon, all the Utah National Parks, and Monument Valley all in one. You add those to your cart, you check out and buy it, and it'll get emailed to you immediately. You'll also have the option to set up an account on the website, so you can access it anytime you want on our website. A lot of people will print it off. You can save it to your tablet if you want. Either way is fine, but you can be planning your trip to the Grand Canyon here in just a couple of minutes.
We are so grateful for you hanging out with us and letting us geek out in one of our very favorite places. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.